Hello everyone, Minute Plus Meditation here, Tuesday, July the 18th. From Exodus chapter 2, a man from the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a fine baby, she hid him for 3 months. Why? Because Pharaoh by this time had already ordered the slaughter of all male children. So, and we see what happens, God's mysterious providence in this case, because it doesn't always result in these outcomes, but God was going to raise up Moses, and the way he was going to do it was the daughter of Pharaoh would adopt him and he would grow up within Pharaoh's house and basically become what we would call a Renaissance man. He would learn all the fine sciences, be well educated, learn many principles of leadership. All of these would be an invaluable skill set for his future vocation to be the leader of God's people. So God brings about the birth, the parents hide him, Pharaoh's daughter finds him and she has pity on him. She could have ordered his death, but she didn't. God's providence, God's will. Sometimes God makes these specific interventions in the world, and it's basically his decision to do this. He doesn't always do this. Bad things happen to good people, right? But in this case, a good thing happens out of a bad situation, and we see what happens. It's like mega fast forward in this reading, right? Because it goes from his infancy right up into his adulthood. Moses sees one of his own countrymen being abused. He kills the Egyptian. Ultimately, it becomes known to Pharaoh. Moses has to flee. So, because Pharaoh wants to kill him. So he has to flee. And this fleeing will also be part of God's providence, God's will for Moses, because he will have to go into the desert and he will undergo great purification there. And this will be an ongoing process, right? Ongoing. But the beginning of his real purification will begin when he has to flee into the desert. And we see what's going to happen as the story of Moses unfolds. Over to the gospel. Jesus began to reproach the cities in which most of his deeds and powers had been done, because they would not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin, woe to you, Bethsaida. For if the deeds of power done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. So, consequences. There's always consequences. There's always consequences. There's always consequences. The world basically wants us to ignore this. There's no consequences to our decisions, right? You can, do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anybody. There's no consequences. There's always consequences. So Jesus is saying, basically, if you reject me, there's going to be consequences to this. It's inevitable, and it's inextricably bound up with the message of the gospel. So only God ultimately can see into the inner or interior recesses of the human soul. Only God can really bring about what we would call judgment. And that will happen. So you and I can't do this, not in a final sense. We can only judge exterior actions. We cannot judge the interior recesses of the heart. But even then, we have to be careful when we judge exterior actions, because we don't know the motivations of the heart. And sometimes the person doesn't even know the full motivations of their own heart. So we have to be very cautious when we're judging beyond actions. God can do this, and it will happen to every single one of us. And it's basically based on the decisions we're making today and tomorrow and the next day, up until the day we die. So they reject Jesus, and it would seem that they will die in this rejection. Now, if you go to these places today, there's nothing left except ruins. So God forbid that this should happen to you and me. Today, do everything you can, to accept Jesus, to pray for the grace to obey his will, to repent of any, sin that you may have committed against him, so that you can restart again, trusting in his grace to help you begin again. God bless you.